everyone, it's Nick here again with Nick's 80s hard rock CD collection. There's a scattering of my CDs on the floor again and over there as well on the bookshelf. Now today we're going to be looking at the biggest band in the world. Well, they definitely were at a certain time and they're still going today. This is a band that I absolutely love and adore, and I first heard them when a friend of mine tape recorded on the good old cassette tapes before CDs, their first album, and I fell in love with this band. I was speechless when I first heard this band. And so without further ado, because I'm excited to present this band because I love them so much. So this is a band that came from Los Angeles, and they originally started in 1984. So without further ado, we'll be looking at the mighty Guns N' Roses. There we go. Now, Guns N' Roses, they actually started in 1984, but they were called Hollywood Rose. Now, this consisted of Axl Rose, the lead singer, Duff McKagan, the bass player, a drummer, which I don't know, I forget his name. And also, it also featured lead guitarist Tracy Guns. Now, Tracy Guns is that guy there. And he left the band soon after and formed LA Guns. So there's a correlation between those two bands. Yeah, Tracy Guns and Axl Rose had a falling out with each other. Guns N' Roses was originally called Hollywood Rose. Now, they obviously changed their name and became Guns N' Roses, and in 1987, they released this album, Appetite for Destruction, which is widely known as one of the best hard rock albums ever made. It's up there in the top 100, definitely top 50 of all time greatest albums ever made. This album is just full of it's full of attitude, it's full of rebellion, it's got grit, it's got sleaze, it's got everything in it, and it was one of a kind, and it was different from other bands of that era because it had a harder edge to it. As I said, full of attitude, and yeah, this album it's got a little warning sticker on it there because there's a bit of bad language in some of the songs, but Appetite, this album actually went #1 on the American Billboard charts, and it sold 30 million copies worldwide, this album. And it had hit singles on it. There we go. Welcome to the Jungle was a hit single. Paradise City, Night Train. Now, the classic song that we all know and we've all heard is Sweet Child of Mine. Now, it's such an iconic song. And as soon as you hear those opening guitar notes, you immediately know it's Guns N' Roses. It's just one of those songs that we all know, we've all heard. Whether you've heard it on the Guns N' Roses album, or you've heard it on the radio, whatever. It's just an iconic song. And that song specifically just helped this album become huge. Now, Guns N' Roses, they made a name for themselves. Obviously, a lot of controversy surrounding this band with the lyrics to their songs, and obviously their behaviour as well. Off stage, they got themselves in quite a bit of trouble, this band, but they redefined the hard rock genre. You had bands like Poison and Van Halen and all that, Motley Crue. They were even outdoing Motley Crue. And speaking of Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, they actually toured with Motley Crue. It's one of Motley Crue's albums. I'll do a special on Motley Crue later on. So those two bands toured in 1987, 1988, and so Appetite for Destruction. They also toured with the Rolling Stones. So they were big fans of the Rolling Stones. You know, the Rolling Stones, well, one of the greatest all-time rock bands in history, Rolling Stones, alongside the Beatles. So, yes, they released that. Now, they also released another sort of small album after this one called G&R Lies. Now, that featured one side was just acoustic songs, played on acoustic guitars, sorry. And one of the hit songs was called Patience, and that's a lovely song, a very mellow, lovely song, ballad. And the other side of that album is just live songs recorded on the Appetite for Destruction tour. Now, they toured relentlessly for this, and the album sales were just going up and up and up. Now, Axl Rose, I don't know if you can see him properly there. He's the lead singer. So I'll just go through the band members. On the far left, you got Steve Adler, who's the drums. He plays drums and percussion. Next to him is Slash, the lead guitarist. Next to him is Duff McKagan, the bass guitarist. And next to him, standing up, is Axl Rose, the lead singer. And below him, holding the acoustic guitar, is Izzy Stradlin, the rhythm guitarist. And yeah, just I'm finding it hard to find the exact words to describe this band because they just mean so much to me, and they, yeah, phenomenal. That's all I can say, a phenomenal band. Anyway, if we fast forward to 1991, so there's a bit of a gap in between what they were doing. They released Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion 1, and they also released about a week later, literally a week later, they released Use Your Illusion 2, and these are two full-length albums. So there's a massive, huge catalogue of songs, just in two albums released in a space of 2 weeks. Now, in regards to Use Your Illusion 1 album and the second album, they've sold 35 million copies alone, these two albums alone. So all up, Guns N' Roses have sold over 100 million copies worldwide. And it's just an absolutely amazing effort. Now, Use Your Illusion 1, that produced hit singles Live and Let Die, which was actually a cover of Paul McCartney, who was obviously the lead singer of the Beatles. He formed a band called Wings, and Guns N' Roses did a cover of that, Live and Let Die, and a very, very rocking cover of that song. Another hit single, Don't Cry. Now, they also released an epic song. We all know, we've all heard it. It's called November Rain, and that is a beautiful song. It's a massive sound. It's got the beautiful keyboard orchestra sound, and Axl Rose playing the piano. And this song, November Rain, was actually it was written back in the early 80s just on acoustic guitar. And I actually had the privilege of hearing this song because a high school friend of mine had it. And it's a really beautiful song. It's stripped back, the original version, just acoustic guitar. And it sounds very haunting as well. It's a very mellow, haunting sound. But they obviously dusted it off and got it off the shelves and made it what we all know it is today, the epic, massive, beautiful song. So that's Use Your Illusion 1. Now, Use Your Illusion 2, they, again, this had hit singles, had Knocking on Heaven's Door, which is a Bob Dylan song. Bob Dylan is a legendary musician. What else do we have? They also had another version of the song Don't Cry off the first Use Your Illusion 1 album. Now, it's exactly the same music, but different lyrics. So every note is exactly the same, but the band wrote different lyrics. So I've never heard of a band doing that before. So only Guns N' Roses could do that. Now, another hit single, and this was actually featured on the Terminator 2 soundtrack, the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, which, by the way, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a massive Guns N' Roses fan. It's called You Could Be Mine. and there was a big film clip for that as well, just showing the highlights of the Terminator 2 album. So, yes, another huge album. Now, I'll tell you guys that I actually had the absolute privilege of seeing Guns N' Roses when they came to Australia back in 1993. And this was on the Use Your Illusion World Tour. And I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I paid $50 back then in 1993, which is pretty cheap compared to concert tickets these days. But I saw Guns N' Roses live, and it was phenomenal. It was really good. And also Skid Row, who are another great band and successful band, they opened for Guns N' Roses at this concert I went to. So I was doubly lucky. I saw Skid Row as well as the mighty Guns N' Roses, and I was so happy. I was on cloud nine. I was really happy. It was the best experience I've ever had. I went with a few friends from high school, and we were just blown away. I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. I saw Guns N' Roses. Now, in regards to this world tour, the rhythm guitarist who I mentioned before, Izzy Stradlin, he actually left the band literally about 2 weeks before the world tour started, because he was sick and tired of the lifestyle, and he was a bit sick and tired of Axl Rose as well, because Axl Rose is a very volatile man. He has very wild mood swings, and he can be a bit hard to handle. I've read a lot of stories about very hard to handle. So Izzy Stradlin, he left the band, and they got in this other guy called Gilby Clarke, and he took over duties on rhythm guitar. And I read an interview with Gilby, and he said that he had to learn the entire Guns N' Roses songs, in literally a week, 2 weeks. He had to learn all of the songs, so that would be a pretty hard task to do. And just to actually go back in time, Guns N' Roses actually toured with Faster Pussycat, who I talked about Faster Pussycat a couple of weeks ago. So those two bands actually started together, and they released their first albums within a week or 2 weeks of each other. So Faster Pussycat and Guns N' Roses, they became good friends in the very early days. Now, Guns N' Roses also released an album. I don't actually have this album. It's called Chinese Democracy. Now, they released that in 2008, and it only featured Axl Rose and the original band member. Sorry, I should also mention to you that on the Use Your Illusion albums, they also got in a new band member, and they got in a new drummer as well. The old drummer, he got thrown out of the band in 1990. So the new band is Duff McKagan, the bass player, Axl Rose in the red jacket, vocals. Lying down with a cigarette and wearing the blue jeans is Slash. Next to him in the red shirt is Izzy Stradlin, the rhythm guitarist. Standing up in the black is Matt Sorum. He was a new drummer, and he actually played in the band The Cult. He was the drummer in The Cult. And sitting there, that's Dizzy Reed, the keyboardist. Yeah, so the Guns N' Roses released an album called Chinese Democracy. As I said, I don't have this album. And that was done in 2008. And that actually cost $14 million just to make the record. Just to make the record, they spent $14 million. So that's a lot of money. But Guns N' Roses had a lot of money. So, yeah, Guns N' Roses, just a huge band, and they're still playing even to this day. I mean, not as much as they used to, but they're still playing. And just recently they did a tour in Australia, and they got back two of the original band members, Duff McKagan and Slash. They rejoined the band. Now, whether they're going to do any more in the future, we don't know. But a phenomenal band. I would strongly recommend that you if you love your hard rock music, and I know you do, and I hope you do, listen to this album specifically, because it is just, it will change. It changed my life. It might not change your life, but it changed my life, and I am blessed to have this in my collection, and I'm blessed to see Guns N' Roses play live in 1993. So there's not more I can say about Guns N' Roses. Is just one of the biggest bands in the world. So there you go. There's the mighty Guns N' Roses. Now next time, the next video we might look at, actually we will look at, since I've got it out now, we'll look at LA Guns, which had the correlation with Guns N' Roses. And there's a brief picture of LA Guns back in their glory days of 1988. So yeah, we'll look at LA Guns next time. And as I said, Guns N' Roses, huge band, and they're also dubbed the most dangerous band in the world because, well, it seemed wherever they went, they always got in trouble, and trouble always seemed to follow them. But thankfully, they're all still alive, even though maybe they shouldn't be with all the stuff they got up to back in the day. But they're still alive, and they're still kicking, and they're still rocking. So do yourself a favour, and at least listen to a few Guns N' Roses songs, and I hope you'll be pleasantly surprised. So on that note, take care, everyone. Look out for yourselves. Stay healthy. Look out for each other as well. Keep in contact with people, and also keep rocking as usual. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching.